Hello, friends. We are in a troubling time when it comes to misinformation. Here at Forbidden Knowledge News, I've always taken an unbiased, open-minded, and responsible approach to presenting my own theories, and the views of our guests do not reflect that of my own. This show is for entertainment purposes only, and any information presented during this show is a live-action role-play scenario. Conspiracies are definitely fun to discuss in a responsible way. My suggestion to everyone that has an audience and presents theories and possibilities should present them as such, and in no way present unsubstantiated information as truth. All that being said, enjoy this episode. Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Alethea Jacob. First, a couple of announcements. Check out the Forbidden documentary, Occult Louisiana, available on Tubi, Roku channel, and multiple streaming platforms. If you'd like to help with a donation for production of our upcoming film, Doors of Perception, we have links in the description. Also, get a Rokfin premium membership, rokfin.com/FKN+. And if you listen to our podcast through any audio platform, listen through Spreaker. Today I want to welcome Alethea Jacob. With 4 decades of experience, she is an intuitive spiritual life coach, teacher, and speaker. As a certified practitioner in NLP and hypnotherapy, she brings a unique blend of techniques to her practice. Alethea, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks so much for asking. It's a beautiful day here in Wisconsin, and it's going to warm up for the weekend, so even
That's
better.
great. It's going to get a little cooler here for the weekend, but still pretty nice. It's great to have you. I've been looking forward to this discussion. Today we're going to learn a bit about some of the modalities you utilize, such as divination, tarot cards, inspired writing, palm reading, and many others, as well as the role of NLP and hypnotherapy in your work. I touched on many of these topics throughout my career here at Forbidden Knowledge News, so I'm very interested in learning about how you utilize these modalities. But before we get into any of that, this is your first time on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you down your path.
Sure, happy to. So I am a spiritual life coach, author, teacher, now podcaster. I have have a couple channels that I'm on regularly. And my life purpose came very clear to me years ago. And it's to sort of be that bridge that helps people get from where they are now to where they need or want to go, and to also help to awaken people and clarify for them what is their sole purpose and how can they actualize more of their creativity, their spiritual gifts, and that essence within them that wants to have the opportunity to express itself in this lifetime. I first realized I had spiritual gifts when I was a child. I could hear celestial music. I could see and communicate with beings. And I just thought that was kind of normal. I'm the eldest daughter of the eldest daughter of the eldest daughter, and the intuition, it was just rampant in my family. And I thought everybody had spiritual gifts, so it wasn't something that I thought was unusual. And in my family, the way that we looked at it was like it's a human potential, like music. So just like if you're born in a family of musicians, you'll probably pick up an instrument or learn how to sing. For me, I was born in a family that was very intuitive. I knew I had some gifts, but I also had an interest And I actively studied and practiced and learned and applied my skill. I actually worked for almost 11 years at a psychic fair every weekend. I would do readings where somebody would sit down, they hand me a ticket and say, okay, I need this, that, or the other thing. And they name one of my tools. Can you read my palms? Can you read my aura? Can you clairvoyantly answer this question? Can you communicate with a dead loved one? Can you do an angel card reading? Can you do a tarot card reading? Whatever, right? It was just switch gears. But after 15 minutes, a bell would ring. They'd stand up, go away. Somebody else would sit down, hand me a ticket. And we do that for 6, 7, 8 hours at a time with all kinds of other readers doing their thing all around me. People, vendors selling things. So it was the greatest psychic boot camp possible to teach me how to instantly tune in, get something meaningful and bring it to closure within a set period of time, and how to do it pretty much anywhere, anytime, despite the distractions. So I did that for a very long time. But I also had I went to high school and college. I worked for a Fortune 500 company for 18 years as my main income while I was studying and learning and developing all the skills and getting all the tools in my toolkit. And then in 2001, I left that corporate job and have been doing my own thing with first freelance consulting and small business coaching that migrated into individual coaching. And then later it got more refined into spiritual life coaching, which is again, what I intend to do is help people get more in touch with what their purpose is and how to have more joy in their life, more peace in their life, and to make sure that they're doing the things that really make them who they were supposed to be and who they have the potential of becoming. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell, I guess. But
great introduction. Now, I was telling you earlier that I have a very wide audience and many different types of people with different beliefs listen to this show, and I'm sure lots of Christians listen to this show, and it's unfortunate that dogma and a lot of religious beliefs have put this fear into a lot of people when it comes to some of the topics we're going to be discussing tonight. And it is my personal belief that a lot of this stuff has been demonized because it is intentionally putting a damper on human potential, on the potential of our own consciousness, our abilities, what we naturally have the ability to do and work with. And this dogma and a lot of the information put forward in these religious beliefs that demonize these practices seem to have been put there as a control mechanism. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I actually have a short story I can share with you and your listeners or viewers. When I was, so let's see, how old was I? Gosh, I must have been just in my 30s. I was living in the Northeast and I was teaching Metaphysics Made Easy was the name of the class. It was an 8-week class that I taught in 3 different high schools in Connecticut in their adult ed program. And I was raised Catholic. I was a very good Christian. I sang at church. I did all that stuff. But I also understood from Spirit, and the Holy Spirit, that is, that there was more to spirituality than any one religion, because we are finite minds trying to understand the infinite. So just by the nature of our being on this side of the veil, we are limited and can't fully comprehend what is possible and what is actually out there to its fullest extent. So I totally respected and was very happy with a Christian foundation for my spirituality. So I would always, and I still do it to this day, I start with a prayer before every session. And I may not specifically invoke Jesus or Mother Mary, but I will invoke the Holy Spirit and guides and angels and any benevolent force of light that wants to work with me and help the person that I'm assisting. So anyway, I'm teaching that course, and then fundamentalists started hearing about it, and they thought it was evil. And so they started doing a letter campaign to the editors of all the local newspapers and to the superintendent of schools. And it became this big blown up thing for many, many months. And eventually they said, you know what, you're just too controversial. meditation is evil, you're the devil's handmaid, and you're all that, like all this crazy stuff, because I was teaching people how to use their intuition, how to meditate, etc., right, as part of the course. And I was arguing back. I said, well, this is an adult education. People who are interested and want to learn these tools and techniques are just what it's about. I even had a reporter from the local newspaper take the 8-week course, and he was like, yeah, there's nothing, they're not sacrificing animals in the hallway. It's not satanic at all. But they were too fearful. And I went to my uncle at the time, who was a priest. And I said to him, his name was Father Richard. I said, Father Richard, I said, I don't understand. Why is there all this fear and hate? And I'm really confused. I'm doing good out there. I'm using my spiritual gifts that God gave me to help other people. How could anybody think that this was wrong? And so first, before he answered, he was very, very wonderful man. He sat back and he asked me a couple questions. And he said, well, do you pray before you start? Yes. Do you help people in your sessions? Yes. Do you give God the glory, or do you take, an ego credit? I said, no, I definitely know this is coming through me. It's not of me, it's through me. I will own the part that I've honed my skills and I've worked on mastering the tools that I use, but I am not deluded to think that, oh, this is all just me. No. And this is something that anybody can do if they have an interest and want to go through it. So he said, you know what, Alethea? I don't believe that God stopped talking to people 2,000 years ago. And so if you're doing things in a prayerful way, you're inviting the spirit, you're helping people and getting good results, and you're staying out of your ego and giving glory to God, he says, you keep on doing what you're doing. He says, because that's how God made you. These are the gifts you were given for a reason. Just like if you had a certain kind of musical skill, you'd be performing and bringing beautiful music to the world. This is the gift that God gave you. So, shine your light. Don't let ignorant people pull you down, and do your best to educate people about different things. So even something like the tarot cards, people are like, oh my God, there's pentacles in there. I'm like, do you know what the pentacle represents? It's not devil worship. It's the balance, the 5 points of life. Leonardo da Vinci's man that he drew had the 5 points, the head, the 2 arms out, the 2 legs spread, making the 5 points, because it's all about the balance in your life of your finances and worldly things, your health, your spirituality, your relationships with others, and your time. It's a whole suit that talks about balance. The major arcana and the minor arcana. Arcana means ancient wisdom. All right. And major, for the major arcana, minor, it's the lesser suits. So I try to educate people and say there's no power in and of the tools. It would be absurd to tell a carpenter you can't use a hammer because it's evil, because some crazy person just used it to bash the head in and hurt somebody. No, it's not the tools. There's no power in and of any tool. It's the user and their intention and the application of tools that determine whether something is useful, beneficial, benevolent. That was something I learned very early on, that I have to try to demystify, Chris. I think what happens is too many people, especially years ago, right? People that went through, I'm a little bit older. I went through the whole New Age movement in the 80s. I was out there doing all the crazy stuff that, New Agers did back then, right? But too many people made it sound like you had to be special. You had to have had some mystical experience to give you these gifts. And they made it sound like this is not accessible. Plus, they wouldn't talk in down to earth, reasonable language, or help to try to bridge the gap between the jargon that was in a lot of the New Age stuff and things that everyday people would understand. And so I kind of took it on as my mission to be that bridge of communication as well. It's like, okay, people that are stuck in the corporate world or your day-to-day grungy, job, whatever you're doing, that grind, you are more than your physical body. You have a soul, you have a spirit, you have a purpose. You have an intuition. We all have intuition. We have to. It's in our genetics. because we are the offspring of the offspring of the offspring of the cavemen who knew intuitively which cave had the saber-toothed tiger and stay away from there, and which one was safe to sleep in that night. And so through that selective breeding of genetics of the intuitive ones who knew how to find the food, find the water, stay safe, know what plants are poisonous or not, we're the ones that survived. It's part of our genetic makeup, right? That we are intuitive. And then I tell the new agey people, stop being so frickin' flaky. Stop making it sound so jargonistic and weird, because you're never going to help somebody who's just learning. Be curious about it. Yeah, there's some really wacky concepts that are out there compared to like science, right? But there's also science now that's proving what some of the things that were quote unquote wacky 40 years ago, we're actually proving now with some quantum theories and different experiments that are happening. Science is bearing out why some of the reasons we can be telepathic or psychic or intuitive, right? It's like, oh, okay, this is really cool. So we're in a whole different age now where it's about coming together and collaborating. Instead of having the mind and the intellect be the adversary of the intuition, we are coming together to make our intellect and what we learn the advocate for, the partner of. We should be combining and having a coherence between our minds, our hearts, and our guts. That is when we can be our best selves and most effective in the world in what we're doing and what we want to manifest in our life for ourselves or for the service of others.
I love that. Now let's talk about your modalities and the energy that we work with, and whether we realize it or not, even the people that are afraid of this stuff and think it's evil are working with unseen forces and energies on a daily basis. So let's talk about some of the work that you do, starting with divination and your tools associated with that.
Sure. Right. So in some ways, the tools, like, all right, so a typical tool of divination is something like, I don't see me anymore. So
yeah, I can see you.
Can you still see me? Okay, perfect. I can't see myself. So dowsing rods, right? This is a traditional tool. You know who first developed this?
Yes.
Farmers, to find water, right? And they would take a branch with a split in it, and when they would walk, when it would be pulled down to the ground, that's where they would dig their wells, because it was the intention behind the tool allowing you to have a certain application. Some people use pendulums, right, to get a yes, no, to get a percentage. It's just a way to codify your intuition in something visible that you can see and program and use. As far as tools, there's angel cards and oracle cards and tarot cards. Those kind of things are, again, they're codified by whoever created that deck. They set a definition and said, well, this angel card means this, and this tarot card means that. And so there's certain conventions, but it's your intuition who does the shuffling, and your higher self who will pick a card or lay out a spread, and you're then able to interpret what are the messages that spirit wants. A tool for divination can be any book. I'm serious, any book. You can take it, you can say, okay, spirit, what message do you have for me? And I'm ready to hear it. And you take that book and you crack it open, and the first paragraph you read, that's your answer, right? So it doesn't have to be, again, something spooky or esoteric. It's, again, what is your intention? What are you paying attention to? And what actions are you taking to bring that in? Palm reading. We all have palms, right? We'll have lines on our palms. Well, someone somewhere years and years ago said, oh, let's give these things some meaning. This is your lifeline. This is your love line. This is your career line. This is the zone of emotional impact or creativity, or your fingers represent different archetypes. So if you have lines underneath it, it tells me you're more artistic, or you're a teacher, or you're a mystic, or you're a warrior, fighter for a cause, right? So somebody codified that. So when you look at a hand, you can say, oh, okay, once you've learned how it was codified. But then the nuances come with, what does spirit bring to your attention? What jumps out at you with reading a palm, for example? Are the lines deep? Are they small? Are they short? Do they intersect? And then you let your intuition say, you ask yourself, oh, I wonder what that means, especially if you haven't learned it or been codified before, and something's going to pop into your awareness. So learning how to pay attention to what are your gifts, whether you're clairaudient and you hear things, or more clairvoyant and see things. And when I say see things, a lot of people think, oh, like if I said I see an angel card floating in the air, right? I don't literally see that as you see that. I see it in the same place in my mind's eye that I would tell you right now, or your listeners right now. Imagine a giraffe with a pink tutu around its neck. Do you see that picture? How about you, Chris? You see it? Right? You can, right? But you're not literally seeing it. You're perceiving it on some inner level, but it's a clear picture. It's giving you information. Yep, I see its neck. I see its legs. I see the tutu. Got it. Right? So people need to understand how to discern. And this is one of the things I teach a lot, and a lot of people that have been doing what I do in the field teach, is how to discern what is the voice of spirit, so to speak, versus your own internal dialogue. What are the visions that pop into your mind? Are you daydreaming it and creating it through your imagination? Or were they sort of put there and inspired inner visions to give you messages from the Holy Spirit, a guide, a loved one in spirit, etc.? So to me, the divination, I actually even don't like that name necessarily, because it implies you're using it for I'm trying to find, so I want to get the lotto numbers. I want to figure out who I'm going to marry. All that. No, these gifts and tools, at least the way that I use them, are to get guidance, insight, understanding, comfort, maybe some direction, right? Anytime you have a reading with somebody like myself, when I'm telling my clients information, it should make sense to their mind, it should feel good to their heart, and it should ring true in their gut, right? There shouldn't be any big surprises. It should validate and give them some insight into things that they may have already been thinking and wondering, and their spirit is using me, their guidance system is using me to articulate back to them and verify and validate, yep, that's what's happening, this is where you're headed, this is what's going on. And because I'm a stranger to them and I don't know about their life, they can feel much more comfortable knowing that it's spirit who has prompted me to come up with the information that is validating, guiding, inspiring, leading them, answering questions, comforting them, etc. So I just the whole name of the tool set kind of implies something that, yeah, maybe in the past, people would be like, oh, yes, you got this card, so you're going to meet the tall, dark stranger, or, oh, you got this card, so you're going to have a car accident. And it's like, no. That is so primitive, I guess, a way to approach it. The tools are so much more nuanced and can be such a great benefit to giving us information if you know how to use it properly. And again, what's your intention? What are you paying attention to in the environment with the tools, the person's energy, what's coming into your awareness? What are you perceiving as the reader? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? What are you knowing? What kind of download of information just seemed to appear, into your consciousness when you tap into that person's energy? And what is your heart telling you? I start everything with the prayer, but I also start with opening up to the highest vibration possible. I breathe it down into my heart. I feel love of my fellow man, whoever, or woman who's sitting across from me. I look at anybody older than me. I feel like, okay, if I was giving this reading to grandpa or grandma or mom or dad, how lovingly would I deliver these messages? If it's somebody my same age, how would I share it with this brother, sister, or cousin of mine? If it's somebody who's younger, how would I share this and frame it and make sure it's understandable to a child or grandchild of mine, right? And so I have a really pure intention to be of help and to be of service to who's ever in front of me in whatever I'm doing. And so that, just by having that strong intention, really helps to shape the nature of the information that comes and the usefulness for my client. I've had to deal with spirit since I was a baby metaphysician years and years and years ago. I have this deal with spirit. If you bring somebody into my awareness and they come and ask me for help, It is because I can help them. I have the tools, I have the ability, I have the knowledge and experience that will be of benefit to that person. So let's not waste anybody's time or money. And I also have the deal with spirit that if somebody can't afford my rates, talk to me and we'll figure something out. There's always bartering. I do plenty of pro bono stuff. And I also will say, okay, well, maybe you can't afford to take my class, but I bet you if you host it or find 2 or 3 other people too, I'll let you take it for free. You help be a mouthpiece and get people, to come. Okay. There's always a way, and I said, that's part of my job. If somebody shows up, I will help you, right? That is why I have the gifts and I've worked so hard all my life to develop what I have. And I love to teach. I love to inspire. And most of the people that come to me, I have found are the teachers of other teachers or the healers of other healers or people that will be working with lots and lots of people in the public. And I'm helping to get them ready to really step into more fully their purpose, their mission, and be better suited and able to help others. So that's kind of my background and my right truth. That's totally there. And I'm very obedient to the voice of spirit when I know it is spirit communicating to me. I left my corporate job before retiring. I made major life moves across the country. I've made lots of life choices based on the promptings of spirit because I'm a yes person to spirit. If I get a clear message, my reflex, my default answer is yes. So if you said to me, hey, Alethea, come on out to Colorado and put together a retreat and teach these topics, can you do that? My reflex is yes. All right. Or, hey, I have this group of 20 people that's over in the UK and they would love to do a Zoom workshop on this topic. Will you put it together? Oh, default answer, yes. Okay. I'll do that unless something within me overrides it and says, no, no, no. And then I turn into it and say, well, why not? What's going on with this? What am I missing? Right. So I have found by doing that and listening to my intuition and taking actions upon it, I have always been in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people for me to help them or for them to help me help others. It's this beautiful, magical dance. The more I stay in alignment, but I'm still human. I still screw up. I shared this story on another podcast. I was doing dishes one day in the winter, and here in Wisconsin, it's pretty cold in the winter. And I have a Belgian Malinois. His name is Flash, and he's the smartest darn dog I've ever had. And he knows how to open up doors. And so he opened up this. I'm standing at my kitchen. There's a window that looks out onto my backyard and my porch. And I see him open up the sliding glass door to go let himself out for potty. He hasn't learned how to close the door. I don't know if he's learned to or not. He just doesn't care to close it when he came back in. But as I'm doing the dishes, I thought, oh, you know what? I should probably go close that door. And I overrode it with my intellect saying, oh, what am I worried about? It'll get a little cold. So what? There's no animals out there right now. It's in the middle of winter in Wisconsin. Right. So I finished doing the dishes. Oh, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, not much longer. I go to walk towards the back to go close the door. And there's a squirrel in my house. A freaking squirrel. I'm like, what the heck? What are you doing in my house? And the thing runs past me, runs into my kitchen, runs into the living room, runs into the dining room. I'm like, oh crap, how do I get this squirrel out of my house now? I'm like, all right, what do I have? Peanut butter, nuts, seeds, what do I have? And so I leave this little trail of seeds. I had processed some squash, and I would save the seeds because I have a big farm and garden here in Wisconsin. So I was going to, plant. So I have this big pile of squash seeds that were drying out. So I'm leaving this trail of seeds all the way to the back door. And then I put the dog away. I'm like, okay, I'm just praying that the little guy will follow the seeds back out. I go back an hour later. I don't see him or hear him, but I don't see any of the seeds eaten. And I'm like, oh God, he's hiding in my house somewhere. So I go get a humane trap and I bait it with peanut butter and peanuts and, and I have it sitting there and it sits there untouched for good week. I'm like, oh God, I hope it's not dead in the wall or, dead under a piece of furniture somewhere. Poor little thing had a heart attack. Well, I never found it. So apparently it found its way out. But the moral of the story is, I know better. I know to listen to that voice of spirit. So even for something that's simple and small as, you should probably go close that door. And I let my intellect override it. I paid the price and had this adventure of the squirrel in my house, and I still really honestly don't know whatever happened to it. I haven't found it. I figured if it had had a heart attack and died somewhere, I would have smelled it certainly by now, or the dog would have ferreted it out. But yeah, so like even for as much as I know how important it is to follow the voice of intuition, especially for big things, it is also equally as important to follow it for the little things. And that's how we kind of build our capacity and our spiritual muscle, if you will, to learn how to be better and better.
Several times you mentioned that you were communicating or working with spirit. And sometimes this can make people nervous. I've heard concerns like you can never be fully sure that you know exactly what you're communicating with, that there are trickster spirits out there that take advantage of people channeling and looking for information. Right. How are you aware of exactly what you're communicating with?
All right. So the first thing that I do before I open myself up is I say a prayer. And the prayer is essentially, I call out to those who guide and love me from above for guidance, protection, and connection. I ask that the energies around me be of the highest vibration and light. I ask that the messages that come be clear, specific, as detailed as possible in order to comfort, uplift, or give guidance and direction to the person in front of me or to myself if I'm channeling for me. So that sets a protective barrier. Oh, and then I give thanks for Spirit's presence and for the opportunity to be of service today if I'm working with somebody else. So I set this energy and protection and intention, again, around me that only positivity can come through, only forces that are of the light and of benevolent can come through. And I've asked my own guidance system of my angels, my guardian angel, my guides, my loved ones in spirit to be kind of, watching the door. They're the bouncers at the door. So I know when I open up, I can trust that what's coming through is pure and clear. And there's also a phrase in the Bible, you shall know them by their works, right? And so I'm going to do a quick promo here because this book, A Portal to Potential, is almost 99% channeled information. It was meant to encourage and empower. It is inspirational. It has writings that are beautiful, that talk, and I'll read one real quick just to give you the vibration of it. But it's uplifting passages. It's questions that came from Spirit to write down, to ponder about what is your purpose? How do you become the best version of yourself you can be? How do you overcome problems and challenges? And so it's a section of some inspired writing and then the channeled questions and random thoughts to ponder. And when it first came through, I was like, oh, okay, it was really cool because I felt like first I was taking dictation from Spirit. As fast as I could write it down, I was hearing it. And then later I would read it. So I knew it wasn't my intellect crafting it or creating it. I was literally writing it down from this benevolent source. And so when I read it afterwards, I was like, wow, this is really kind of cool, or this is deep, or this is profound, or wow, this just makes my heart expand. And so you will know them by their works is what's the impact? What do you feel when you read this? When you experience, anybody experiences channeled writings or a painting that was representative of a visionary artist and it's a portal to what they were seeing, or you listen to music that transcends you to the place that the musician, the artist was hearing, with the words, there is energy. Energy and information are two sides of the same coin. So you can follow that energy to that source of love and information and insight and get what you need from it. So why read a book like A Portal to Potential? It's uplifting. It asks great questions. It can give you some guidance and inspiration and encouragement, but it can also help you in your own explorations access that same source, but get what you need. So in a way, it's like following the radio station all the way back following your receiver up to the actual radio station, not just the channel you're tuned into, but getting to the actual station where you can say, oh, well, I think I want this channel versus that channel. I need healing. I need business advice. I need relationship advice. I need insights on the next invention. I need to understand how to heal my body. I want to experience the fullness of the expansion of my consciousness possible. Whatever it is, channeled information, once there's an open channel, there's so many different applications for it. And so when you're reading this, how do you feel? Does it make sense to your mind? Does it feel good to your heart? Does it ring true to your gut? You should use, as the receiver or consumer of any kind of spiritual information, channeled or not, as your test of truthfulness and usefulness and applicability to you as the consumer of it. Does it feel right? Does it ring true? Does it help me? Yep. Then you don't have to worry about the source. Because back to the Bible, because I, again, raised Catholic, Christian, right? Read that book many, many times, right? You shall know them by their fruits. A bad tree cannot give you good fruit. It's impossible. The deceivers can maintain an illusion for a short period of time, but they can't sustain that. So look at a person's body of work. Look at how you feel when you read it. Look at, does this actually give you good advice? Does it help you? Okay, then it has to come from a good source. And back to my Catholic friends, because I still have many, we prayed to the saints. We pray for and read stories about the mystics who, like Padre Pio and Mother Teresa, right? They were in communion with angels and benevolent beings and hearing promptings from God and all kinds of other spiritual gifts. And we revere them. Again, don't make anybody who has a spiritual gift seem so special and other and different from you, because Christ himself said, if you are in alignment, you can do the things that I have done and even more. If you have that love for your man, the appreciation and gratitude for your creator, whether you call him God or Allah or the source, or you leave it unnamed, it doesn't matter. It's that sense of gratitude and acknowledgement that there is something greater than yourself. And the institution of the various churches were meant to help us codify it and come together as community to share the scriptures, to share the songs, to share the philosophy of love God, love your neighbor, be a benevolent force in the world, have a positive impact, do right whenever you can, do the right thing always. And that is the measure of a good life. Leave a legacy of love and positivity in your wake. That's what every religion teaches on some level. And that's the same core at spirituality. So I honestly try not to judge. I know there's no judgment in spirit. I know, and here's again for all the Christian listeners, and I still consider myself a Christian, all right? And there's some Christian sects like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint that they literally teach about and encourage you to develop your spiritual gifts, because Christ said, go do these things. So you need to have the tools and gifts to do them, right? So there's that out there, but there's also that sense of, I know I'm supposed to be the best I can be. I know in Christianity that there's lots of, even within Christianity, there's lots of different sects, right? There's the Catholics, there's the Lutherans, the Methodists, the Baptists, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint, the Seventh-day Adventists, the Jehovah's Witnesses. They're all Christians, right? But you talk to one versus the other, and it would sound like, well, we're different and we're the only one. And I'm like, okay, hold on a minute. Okay, so my dear Catholic friends and family, are you telling me that if we have Mary over here, who is a Lutheran and has devoted her life to Christ and has lived a wonderful Christian life of service and benevolence and helping those in need and ministering to her brothers and sisters, that when she shows up on the other side of the veil, Jesus is going to be there and say, oh, you know what? So sorry, Mary. You worshiped in the wrong house of worship. You got to go to hell. You know, this is only for the Catholics. This is only for the Mormons. This is no, of course not. Right. And again, we have our own conceptions and perceptions of what we believe will be on the other side of the veil. But we're like a bunch of people jumping on a trampoline, peeking over the fence. We're only getting glimpses, and finite mind trying to understand the infinite. It's impossible. I asked Spirit once, help me understand, or give me an analogy that I can share with people of, you know, how we're limited by the veil of forgetfulness that happens when we're born into physicality right now. And what Spirit showed me was a goldfish in a bowl. And I heard the voice of Spirit say, just like this goldfish would be totally unable, inconceivable to imagine what an ocean would be like, so too are humanity on this side of the veil able to conceive or perceive of all that is possible on the other side of the veil in the world of spirit. We're unable to perceive it or conceive it totally, just like that fish. And even if that goldfish was in an aquarium, the difference between the aquarium and the ocean is huge. Because if that goldfish found itself in the ocean, it would be in great peril. There's no hand dropping flakes for it to eat. There's all kinds of currents and things it's not used to. And there's a lot of fish that want it for lunch that are swimming around it. And it would not survive. But unlike that goldfish, the sons and daughters of God, the articulations and of spirit that we are on this side of the veil have no peril when we're on the other side. We are returning to that union and to something that is magical and amazing and without the perils and dangers that goldfish would find itself in on the ocean. And so that analogy was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And anybody who says, I've figured it out, whether it's a person or an institution, it's impossible. They may have a doctrine or a description of things that make sense, and it may be the closest thing possible to the reality of it. But by the very nature of this reality and this dimension that we're all living in right now, it's impossible to be able to perceive it because it's outside of our dimension. It's outside of everything else. It encompasses us. Like if we were a drop in the ocean, we could know our drop, but we can't understand and know the whole ocean. We know we're a part of the ocean. We have an individuality as that drop, and the ocean would be incomplete without us. But we're not at this side with that awareness of drop able to perceive the totality of what ocean is. And so I really try to encourage people, please stick to the what is the founding principles of your religion? What are the ethics and morals and life learning lessons and what they teach us to be? And pretty much all of them say, honor the creator, give gratitude for the blessings in your life, love one another, and be the best possible version of yourself, doing right, doing good, shining your light, and making a positive difference wherever possible. And that's just chunking way the heck up every religion I know of, right? But that's what we have in common. We're like many ladders against the same roof. It's like, okay, does it really matter how you get to the roof? Which ladder you have? No, especially if you have that intention in your heart that you want to do this. And even people who say, well, I don't even know if there is a God. Okay, but there has to be something that started all this. There has to be some guiding intelligence and consciousness that we're a part of or a result of, because all of that we have cannot possibly be random. And this is where things like the quantum fields and quantum science and some of the discoveries that are happening in the field of science now are helping us understand that, yeah, you know what? There is this field around us that contains energy and information, and it's vibrating at such a fast rate that part of the reason we don't see it is it's outside of our awareness because we're vibrating at a slower rate. And frequency is a very important component of life and our experience. Even you get to something like crystals. We were talking about tools before. Crystals are very scientific in that you could take a piece of amethyst and you can actually measure what are the wavelength and frequency of the energy that comes off of it. It's different than a rose quartz. It's different than a Herkimer diamond. It's different than a piece of jade, right? They all have unique things, vibrations. Well, certain frequencies and vibrations affect different parts of our body, our chakras, our layers of our aura, our awareness, our feelings, our intuition. And so depending on what you need, you will vibrate with a certain stone or crystal, and it can be a tool for you. Just like people vibrate and are attuned to different frequencies of music. Some people like punk, some people like hard rock, some people like folk music and country music and pop music and classical music and opera, right? The whole range of vibration and frequency. And you know what? The same person on a given day in the morning, I might want to put on some Singing with the Oldies from when I was young in my 70s, 1970s, and sing along with Air Supply. And it'd be like, yeah, I know Air Supply, good Lord, right? Or sing along with the Bee Gees, right? And then later on in the day, I might be meditating and I might put on the Brandenburg concertos, or Pachelbel's Canon in D, something that's kind of peaceful and circular. And then later in the nighttime, I might put on some Taylor Swift and be like, doing my chores and getting some stuff done. Right. So even one person at different times, you're going to resonate and want a different frequency. Part of the reason people like myself can sometimes hear and see things that other people can't, I believe, from a scientific point of view. And by the way, in college, I studied, I was a chemist and a computer scientist. So I have a background in science and I love science. I also have this really deeply intuitive and experiential side that wants to bear everything out. So I think that's why I make a good bridge to both communities, because I'm like, yeah, I know what it's like to be scientific and just don't accept things at face value. Let's experiment. Let's be curious. Let's see if it's repeatable. Let's see what happens with all this stuff. Right. So I like that so many things that are in the metaphysical world can be scientific and can bear out in the long run. But I think the reason why, again, is back to vibration. I've trained myself through meditation and working with other masters of their craft and other people that were really good, skilled metaphysicians and healers and teachers to raise my vibration a little bit, to quicken it. So now I can perceive into those dimensions that are of, by nature, a higher dimension, a higher vibration than this 3D that we live in, right? And so I think that's where a lot of the portals that open up and the benevolent interdimensional beings that come through, whether they're angels or aliens or, pick it, a loved one in spirit, they're vibrating at a higher vibration, higher frequency. And only when we're in tune with that or closer to it can we begin to perceive it. And so I think that's what helps to explain why some people have it. And yeah, you know what? There's natural gifts and abilities. There's child prodigies. Mozart, man, 5 years old, playing everything. Right? You're like, what did that? Where did you come from? Right? And there's like the indigo children that were born with amazing telepathic gifts and the ability to do telekinesis and all kinds of other amazing gifts. Okay, these were souls that came down with the purpose of, I want to show and remind anybody who sees me or hears me or learns of me of what is possible as a human potential. We have forgotten in that veil of forgetfulness, we have forgotten what is possible. And when we read about ancient cultures that talk about what they used to do with their minds, with their energy, we're like, oh yeah, that must be mythology. And it's like, you know what? We have tools now and science that's showing, like, for example, sound. There's cultures that talk about using sound waves to levitate the heavy rocks, to heal part of the body, to dispel negative energies, to break up negative energies. All right. So that may sound a little like mythological or, exaggerations to most people of a scientific mind today. But here's a question for you. Have you been to the dentist? Have a cleaning where they used a sonic tool to break up the plaque on your teeth and to clean your teeth? They're using sound waves to clean your teeth, to break up and dispel things. So we have tools now that are doing the same things these ancient cultures did without the technology. So it shouldn't be a big stretch of the imagination to think, oh, well, if they did it then, and we're doing it now with the aid of technology, we should still be able to figure out how to do that same thing as before because we know it's possible.
Last few minutes that we have, I'd love to get deeper into your understanding of the nature of this human experience, why we're here. With all the events that have unfolded over the past few years that seems to be having this effect on the collective awareness, everybody is at different levels of understanding and awareness right now. And I would love to get your perspective on where we're at collectively, the nature of this human experience, why we're here, and what's happening with people's awareness right now.
Okay. Very simple question. Right?
Yeah, easy.
All right. So the universe, according to Alethea, right? So what my belief and understanding, again, with the caveat of finite mind trying to understand the infinite, is that we are all part of a collective source of spirit that has individuated on this side of the veil into all of the beings that are present, whether it's people, animals, anything that's living and that has consciousness, was a individuation from that oneness in order. Think of it as threads of a tapestry. So we're all part of the same tapestry, and we decide, I'm going to be this thread in this lifetime. I'm going to come down for a certain purpose, to serve, to play a certain role, to learn something, to have an experience that on a soul level, we have, I'll call it the big picture block awareness of. We don't know all the details because we have, free will and free choice, and we can always deviate from what the plan was at any time we want, right? That's part of this nature of this reality as well. So we may understand that, okay, we've chosen our parents, we've chosen a certain culture to be born in, certain circumstances to have, certain good things and bad things that will happen in our life, just at a really high level. And our soul says, or that thread, that one piece of the tapestry of, in my case, Alethea has said, yep, I am willing to suffer through all of the hard stuff in order to build resiliency and adaptability and to learn how to thrive, not just survive, so that I can be of better service to others. So, yep, I'm willing to go through that. So, yeah, I know I'm a good person, and, no good, it's hard to understand, why do bad things happen to good people? On a soul level, we agreed. We're complicit. We said, yep, you know what? I know there's something I'll learn from this, and it might be the resiliency. It might be a certain skill set. It might be how to ask for help. It might be how to open up and receive love and assistance from others. Whatever the lessons are, we have agreed to it on some level of our being. And then later on, we're like, in my case, because of, I wouldn't change anything I've gone through, Chris. I've gone through a lot of really crappy things in my life. I've had many, many blessings, wonderful opportunities, and I have had things I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And I wouldn't trade any of them, because that's collectively, those experiences have made me who I am, drove me to investigate the tools and the learnings and what's possible to help me get through it. like the wounded healer syndrome, right? It's like half the healers you meet, it's because they had physical problems of their own, or someone they loved did. And so, oh, okay, let me go learn about healing so I can help, right? Or I need to learn how to heal myself. So we take these things on. Now, the animals that are in our life, especially the cats and dogs, there is a group soul called dog, a group soul called, for every animal class, right? There's a group soul, group vibration. So they have, it's not a thread, it's a big old cord that comes down. But when we choose a specific pet to love, that pet, we name it, we love it, we come into alignment with it, we allow that spirit to individuate from their collective group dog to, this is Flash, this is Fluffy, this is Spot, this is Ginger. Okay. And once we connect with them from that place of love, we are able to then keep that connection in spirit forever on both sides of the veil, right? Our mission, I believe, collectively, is to remember that we are all one at our core, but we're here for different learnings and lessons and experiences that are part of why it's good to find out what's your soul purpose, because that'll give you a clue. What are the creativity and artistic and hobbies or things that have been on your back burner all your life, saying, oh, one of these days I'm going to go here or do this, or I really feel like I want to learn about X, Y, or Z, right? Those are clues and hints about your purpose. So collectively, and we have soul groups that will say, hey, well, like maybe there's 50 or 100, I don't know what, pick a number, doesn't matter. Threads that say, hey, we're going to come down all at the same time and kind of share a mission. So we're all going to be part of the teachers, or we're going to be part of the prophets that try to wake people up and say, hey, you are more than your physical body, right? Or we're going to be the healers, or we're going to be the bridge builders, right? We recognize each other. When you meet somebody that's from your soul group, you're like, oh, I feel like I know you. I feel like I trust you. Wow, look at the serendipity of when you showed up in my life and what we can do for each other. There is a plan, right? There is a reason for all of this. It's not just randomly happening I don't believe it's random through the universe. I think we come here with this, whatever the collective being of oneness we are, as that tapestry is expanding itself and it's allowing itself to have different experiences to see what is possible. And some lifetimes are negative, sometimes are positive, sometimes are very neutral. I think also that over the last few generations, time and energy have quickened and accelerated. So everything has gotten faster, right? So even just something very simple, like on a human dynamic scale, think back to your grandparents' generation. How many of them got divorced?
None, yeah.
Not very many. Why? Because they came together as everybody who comes together in relationship, for a purpose. It's like a contract saying, okay, we're going to come together to accomplish X. And in those days, and my grandparents' days, it took 50, 60, 70 years to get that project done. So they stayed together. In my parents' generation, divorce, I would say maybe like 1 out of every 10 people, that were in the community you'd hear about it. They'd last about 15, 20, 25 years. And then you'd hear about a divorce after they've been together for 25 or 30 years. And you're like, what? How is this possible, right? They finished their contract. They finished their project. Things started to speed up. In my generation, I would say maybe one quarter of the people that got married got divorced. Why? Everything's faster. We get done our assignments quicker. There's more technology. There's social media. There's ways that things happen. We have tools of even the computers, that everything's faster. You can get things done more efficiently and effectively and quicker. And so if we finished our project together and what we contracted to come together for as a couple, and we're done, we can either say, okay, let's re-up for a new project, or you know what, for the thing I want to do next, there's a better partner out there for me. So it doesn't have to be this contentious parting of the ways. It can be like, I have such gratitude for the 16, 20, 30 years we spent together. I love you. I bless you. I wish the best for you. And on we go to our new adventure. Now, I'm noticing in the generation of my friends' kids and grandkids, a lot of them aren't even getting married. They're like, oh, we could just come together for as long as it makes sense, and then we'll go our way. I don't think it's about commitment as much as it is a recognition of everything's happening much faster. And again, just to give the example, my grandmother, she lived to be 90 years old. When she was young, they did not even have a refrigerator in their house, right? Or they had an ice box and the iceman would come. There was no television everywhere. There was no airline travel that was reasonable for anybody, right? And in her lifetime, every appliance you can imagine came into being. The computers came into being. The internet came into being. Supersonic travel came into being. Social media came into being. And it's like the world went from, oh, if I want to go communicate with somebody in Europe, I need to take a 3-month ocean liner voyage across the ocean to, oh, I can just zoom in and talk to them over the internet, right? Everything's gotten faster. There's been innovations in all kinds of fields of technology and medicine and science, you name it, right? It's everything is faster. And so the lessons are coming quicker and quicker. And that's why more and more people are perceiving the portals, the different energies. I think some of it is intentional. So it helps to elevate us because as we become in resonance with the higher vibrations, we're able to perceive them. There's also some higher wisdom and knowledge. And if they're resonating at a higher vibration, a purer vibration, a more spiritual vibration, that's something to ascribe to. That's something that it's a good thing that we're moving in that direction. But what happens when we start going really fast? If we're driving in a car and we start going really fast, what happens if our wheels are not in alignment? The car starts shaking. It's not a pleasant experience, right? But if our wheels are all in alignment and the tires all have good pressure in it and we've got a nice good tank of gas, it gets more and more exciting. We're getting where we want to go faster. It's like, wow, look at us go. This is wonderful. But if they're not in alignment, and if you're not somebody who is paying attention to, well, are your tires in good shape? Is your car in alignment? Do you have enough gas for the journey? It's going to be scary. And so I think on a large level, a lot of the environmental disasters and the natural things that are happening, that's part of how the earth is reacting to the quickening of the vibration. The storms are more powerful. They're coming more frequently. On all levels, right? But I think as far as people, I think that's why there's so much contention as well. You start stirring up the pot, right? You're shaking it up. It's things are moving faster. It's bringing to the surface any of the issues that we need to resolve and helping us get back to that foundation of what is your intention? What are you paying attention to? What are you choosing? Are you choosing to shine your light? Are you choosing to be a force for good in the world? Are you thinking about your legacy of impact and making a positive difference in everybody's life you can touch every day? Are you doing the right things for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the rest of the tapestry, not just your thread? And so anybody who's not thinking in that way, I believe, can get stuck in the drama, the trauma, the fear. We have to choose love over fear, okay, love over hate, faith over fear, faith in ourselves, as well as understand that we are part of a much bigger infrastructure and cosmic system, and we are not alone. We have each other, and we have so many benevolent interdimensional beings, angels, guides, loved ones in spirit, even aliens, right? I mean, there's so many more sightings of UAPs and portals opening and people reporting experiences with things they just can't explain. That's because we're starting to quicken our vibration so the veil is thinner. We're able to perceive more because we're resonating with that frequency a little bit more.
Yeah, I resonate with I resonate with a lot of that information, and there's much more we could get onto. I definitely love to have you back on the show in the future. Much more we can talk about. Before you go, I understand you have a workshop coming up in the near future that you'd like to mention?
Oh, yes, I do. So for anybody who is wanting to do something spooky cool for Halloween and you're not going out trick-or-treating, on Halloween evening, I'm going to be offering a 2-hour workshop, a Zoom workshop on how to read the tarot cards and just kind of talk about anything spiritual that the folks that are tuning in want to learn about, how to use different tools in different ways, but it's going to focus on the tarot, and it's only $25. And to find it, go to my website to sign up. It's aletheajacob.com, and there's a What's Happening Soon tab, and there's also an events tab that you can click on and, come join us and have some fun. And please reach out to me. I like to think of myself as a very reachable, accessible person. I've been in this field for over 40 years. Devoted to helping other people and trying to be that bridge. I love to do readings and sessions. I love to customize. So if you and your group say, oh, I always wish, I wish I could have somebody who would teach me this and this and this and this, or geez, I'd like to explore this and this and this and this, reach out to me. We can put something together that will very much meet your needs and desires to have your curiosity met and to learn some tools and get some information and guidance that would be fun and useful for you to have in shining your light and finding out your purpose and living the best possible life that you can.
Excellent.
So please look me up. Please get my book. It's on Amazon. It's $10. All proceeds go to the scholarship fund of the Monroe Institute, which is an amazing consciousness institute in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. If you don't know about it, look them up. You're going to love them. It's based on science and technology to help assist expanding consciousness and applying it in all kinds of different fields and ways. It's a magical, wonderful place.
Yeah, it is. Excellent. Alethea, thank you again. I'll have your links right in the description for everyone. And like I said earlier, we'll definitely have to do this again. Much more we can explore. Until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We will talk again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.